We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners. Sprint Ride Option Podcast. Hello. It's a new episode of the Sprint Ride Option Podcast. I am your co-host, Andrew Pasquini, joined as always by who we called Vegas Jason last week. We're calling him Jersey Jason this week because he's back home after a very successful trip to what they call Sin City. Jason Aponte. Jason, how you doing on this lovely Monday evening?
Wiped, tired, happy to be home. Spent way too much time in Vegas. Vastly overrated. If we're going to start talking about draft picks and things like that, Las Vegas is vastly overrated in terms of how people describe it. 2-3 days the most. Flight was canceled at the end. That is it. Thank God that the draft next year is in Kansas City as opposed to Las Vegas.
A lot of barbecue, going from a lot of gambling and casinos, just a lot of barbecue in a relatively boring town, that Kansas City, Missouri. Tech 9 from KCMO. He reminds you in almost every song he has. But Jason, we're here to talk San Francisco 49ers. We're here to talk about the draft. The 49ers had a draft. Whether it's successful or not, I don't know. And the fun thing about the draft is nobody will know until these guys hit the field come September. And even then we might not know. But real quick, while we're letting people fill in, let's just discuss the news of today. Just really quick, let people fill in, get it out of the way. The 49ers announced they're bringing back cornerback Jason Verrett for the 2022 season. And to me, it's a pretty solid move, just because, obviously the injury issues exist. But as we kind of say with Verrett every time, if he can stay healthy, he's a very quality player. And I don't know about you, Jason, but heading into the 2022 season, I feel better about the 49ers cornerback situation than I did in 2021. And I think that's a good upgrade.
Yeah, and I don't think it's hyperbole to say that this is the best cornerback room that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have had during this entire regime. I really don't. When you think about Jason Verrett coming back and how well he played in 2020, it was actually one of the few bright spots from that god-awful season. And now, yeah, I understand people's hesitance. Hey, let the young guys play. I'll be honest with you. Ward and Verrett outside with Emmanuel Mosley inside as slot is the best three that you've had this entire time. So I love the move. It's low risk, high upside, but as always, it's the if he stays healthy thing. And Jason Verrett talked about his time there when he first signed back, saying how much he enjoyed the culture, how much he enjoyed the recovery rooms there. You don't want to hear that, but
no, not at all.
That a lot of that went into it, I'm sure. And I think this can be a hell of a move, and it provides more depth. And we've got guys on this team that you have seen can play. Mm-hmm. And even if they have to sit behind a really good option in Jason Verrett. So,
yeah, and even if it doesn't work out, I'm very excited to do this. If it doesn't work out, you have guys like Ambry Thomas. You have guys like Deamador Lore. You ready for this one, Jason? You have guys like Samuel Womack and Tariq Castro-Fields possibly. It's pretty exciting to say some new names. And that's why we're here, the draft. So, so Jason Verrett, he's back. If he's healthy, very good player. If not, I don't think the Niners. Nothing against Verrett, but we're just kind of used to what the Niners look like without him, and you're not losing much in terms of that. So hopefully he stays healthy. As I said, he comes from DBU, Santa Rosa Junior College. So I'm big on Jason Verrett. Let's dive into the draft now, Jason. And I'm going to start with just a very short conversation. If you want the full conversation that Jason and I had, go back and find right around the 10th pick in the draft about Jason and I's opinion on the Deebo situation. But that's kind of where the draft story starts for the San Francisco 49ers. We'll have a very quick conversation about it. Deebo Samuel still on the team right now. They have not traded him. They did not trade him to the Jets. Did not trade him to the Texans, the Eagles, the Ravens, whoever it may be. So just really, really quick thoughts on Deebo still being here, and then we'll actually dive into the draft.
I mean, probably was the most likely scenario, especially when we got closer and closer to the draft. Buzz in media room was he's not going anywhere, and we knew that there was a number they had to clear, which was 10 through 14. They did, and that was it. So, I mean, I don't want to get into discussions about whether he's dug in or what happens next. I don't know what happens next, but I do know he's on this team, and he's not getting traded for anybody at this point. So He's either got to figure it out whether he's going to scorch earth for real or they're going to be able to repair this, which Kyle Shanahan alluded to in the press conference afterwards. And he said he would hope so. And that tensions are high right now and emotions are high. And that things on the outside with the perception looking in aren't good. But he feels that he can get it back done. So, yeah, I mean, just there it is. I mean, that's it. That's all you're really waiting for. And nobody ever had anything that was really concrete about him being moved.
Nope.
But this was the most likely scenario just based on team control. And the 49ers seem like they understand that, and they don't have to be pressed to do anything.
Nope. And Deebo was never getting traded unless they got blown away. The rumored offer that they got from the Jets was the Jets' 10th pick and a 5th round pick for Deebo and the Niners' 2nd round pick. That wasn't going to happen. So that's why he didn't get traded. Now, if the Niners got blown away by an offer, maybe we're having a different conversation right now. Maybe we're not. Who knows? And it's still fully possible he could get traded. I don't know if he will or not. I don't think anybody does. So be careful who you believe on the social media. Definitely don't believe Odell Beckham Jr. But it's a lot more difficult because if you're trading for draft picks in the future, let's say hypothetically the Niners trade them to the Jets for the Jets' next first 4 first-round picks. Hey, that's pretty good. But let's say hypothetically the Jets win the next 4 Super Bowls. That's not as great. So that's kind of what it is right now. We got the Deebo talk out of the way, Jason, in about 1 minute. Congratulations, we did it. Let's start talking about the guys the Niners drafted. So the way I'm going to do this, just a heads up for everybody, Dane Brugler of The Athletic has a thing what he calls the Beast. It's a 288-page PDF document. I'm just going to tell you the player the Niners drafted and just a little summary paragraph he has at the very end, give you kind of a screenshot of who he was according to Dane Brugler. If you want to go read the document and have all the information you have on the 49ers top prospects, go do it. Highly recommended. 288 pages. It's fantastic. So the 49ers, they start with their 2nd round pick, 61st overall, edge rusher, Drake Jackson. The Brugler summary. He's a 3-year starter at USC. He played the stand-up B backer edge rush position at USC under the 4-2-5 scheme. His most productive season came as a freshman at 275, the weight, 275 pounds, but he shed 35 pounds during quarantine. Although his initial step can be better, Jackson rushes with outstanding flexibility, length, and arc acceleration, along with the instincts to capture the corner or fire back inside. The big thing I saw with him was he's not a finisher, and that's a conversation we can find out. And then the last little sentence he had was he has the upside of an impactful NFL starter, but has work to do if he wants to reach that level, which, I mean, a 2nd-round pick, that's kind of what you get. I think the biggest concern for 49er fans, and this isn't even a Drake Jackson conversation, a lot of people thought it was going to be safety or interior offensive lineman. The Niners go edge rusher, as they like to do with their first pick. And I don't necessarily disagree because I feel like a lot of the bigger names that could have been available at this spot at offensive line and safety were gone at this point. So the Niners went with the 3rd need. In terms of Jackson, the Niners needed somebody consistent on the other side of Nick Bosa, especially with D4 gone. So we'll obviously, you're going to hear this sentence a lot, Jason. We'll see, but that's kind of what the draft is. But in theory, I think a guy who can play across Nick Bosa is a very good thing. So what are your thoughts on Jackson? Just kind of the overall thought on the 61st overall pick.
Yeah, I mean, he had a 1st-round grade for a lot of people. So where he fell in this draft, it feels like a steal. But I agree with the assessment that he has to do a little bit more in the run game. He's going to be primarily a pass rush specialist in the beginning. He has moves that he can win against linemen inside and outside. I'll give him that. Feels like an obvious D Ford replacement right away. And if he gains a little bit more of moves and throws them into his bag like Nick Bosa and just a little bit more strength, then he'll hit that potential because they're betting on the physical skills. So I love it. He could be the big steal. And at 61, I don't think you could have asked for a better value at that point. Sure, everybody wanted safety. They had their guys, things like that. I would have loved to have Jalen Petrie. He was gone off the board before that. But Drake Jackson, it felt like he slid a bunch. 5 sacks last year, 8 tackles, interception, forced fumble, 2021, 6'4", 250. Adds a little bit more strength, adds a little bit more to his bag in terms of pass rushing. And now we're talking, I really love this pick. If I had to give it a grade, I would give it an A.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, I think the one thing, as I said, that I heard a lot is he's not a finisher. But the thing that kind of feels with the Niners pass rush and kind of what they emphasize is they like pressures because especially with the way they decide that they try and fix the secondary by creating pass rush. I think they like those pressures. And if you can get a guy who can create a pressure like a Drake Jackson and maybe push him a little towards Nick Bosa, who is the finisher of the defensive line, or even an Eric Armstead. I think that's going to be a good move for the 49ers. Edge was, in my opinion, the third position they needed to address. The name I wanted outside of Petrie was Brisker out of Penn State. He was also off the board. The offensive line situation got thrown off a little bit with Cole Strange being picked in the first round by the Patriots, and Cam Jurgens was also off the board. That was the name I was looking at in the second round. I like the edge selection for the 49ers here just based off of who was gone and who was there. And it felt like Drake Jackson was one of those guys who you saw some mock drafts have going upper second round. So the Niners to get him at the back end of the second round, it works. And kind of like the next draft pick with the way the Niners developed the position with Chris Kosaric, I'm very good with an edge here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's still a continued focus on the trenches on both sides of the ball. And again, you've got to find a way to duplicate that D forward move. And again, it'll be somebody who's cost controlled in the second round for a long time. If he develops, then this is going to look like an absolute great pick down the line. So it's less about what you think about it right now and what you can project from him, what he needs to work on and the situation that he landed in. And it's hard not to be excited about this pick.
Yeah, no, it's a very exciting pick, and an edge rush. I know the meme is the Niners always take the edge rusher, but it's a position that's been very important to them, and it's led to a lot of success for that defense. So it makes sense. This was where Niner fans got a little complainy, and I don't necessarily blame them. As I said, I'm trying too hard not to judge the draft picks because it was a bit of a position of need. Now, did the Niners need to address it with the 93rd overall pick? That I don't know. The 49ers go running back in the third round, their first third round selection. Tyrion Davis-Price out of LSU. The Brugler summary, just real quick, a 2-year starter at LSU. Davis-Price emerges the Tigers' lead back and former offensive coordinator Jake Pete's multiple run scheme, and it was the backup to Clyde Edward-Helaire in 2019. Although he still has work to do as a pass catcher, he was a closer on the 2021 tape, getting better as the game progressed. He's a runner who's going to grind out short yardage, but also mash the gas when he has an open lane. And in the last little sentence, he is a physical downhill back who can break tackles late in the games and hold his own in pass protection. He can be part of an NFL rotation well beyond his rookie contract if he stays committed. And that's kind of what the Niners are looking for, right? So if you remove the pick, which I know is very hard to do, you can't say, oh, you weren't a third round pick, because he was. It's what the Niners were looking for, because the one big complaint that we had, Jason, especially on this podcast, is Elijah Mitchell isn't your workhorse kind of back. From what you read on Davis-Price, he can be a physical runner. He can take the abuse. I don't think he's going to get more carries than a Elijah Mitchell, but he's a guy that ideally can stay healthy. He provides a little bit different, and the tight running is something that the Niners haven't really had in a minute, because I know Jeff Wilson's a very physical runner, but he's also kind of a big gain runner as well. So we'll see how this looks in the Niners offensive scheme with Kyle Shanahan. You know, Shanahan likes his running backs. So we'll see how it looks. Now, obviously, the big concern is where the Niners selected him. Third round pick, Brugler of The Athletic had him as a 5th round grade. So maybe a little bit of a reach. So what are your thoughts on Davis-Price, the player, and kind of where the Niners got him?
I mean, this guy's stealing all of my damn notes, but whatever. Tough runner. He's got slept on burst. I like the player, not the pick. Amazing in pass pro. And I think that's something that's very important that people need to understand is Shanahan needs you to be good in pass pro. That's something that's very good with him as well, too. And I think the bigger question, the bigger discussion, and, you know, I know we tried to talk about it earlier without going back to it, is was he picked up to help lighten the load for Deebo Samuel, in effect showing him, hey, listen, we've got other guys now that can carry the ball. I understand Jeff Wilson's still under contract, Elijah Mitchell as well, Trey Sermon is as well. This is a room that is has depth, and now that has guys that, you know, he went to LSU. That's something that's a power school. That's one of the things that many people look for when they're looking at players, you know, competition, things like that. But yeah, I like the player, just don't like the pick. I had him down in the 5th round, things like that. But again, it's hard to judge right now, because if it pans out and it plays better 2-3 years down the line, then we'll look back and say, hey, they made the right pick. Don't really like it right now, but hey, at the same time, I think that the kid is a good fit. naturally in this offense, especially if we expect this offense to go a little bit more inside zone with Trey starting. So that's where he kind of fits in a little bit more. But the pass pro thing was the thing that really jumped out to me as well. But this Brugler guy, whoever he is, he's stealing all my stuff, man. I'm tired of him.
Yeah, I'll try and read a little less to give you your notes, to give you your shine as well. Yeah, man, and I agree, especially on the pass protection. I think that's something the Niners could use, especially with Trey Lance, ideally the starter. We still don't really know that answer yet. But yeah, my thing is, especially on the positioning of the player and where the Niners selected him, I'm a firm believer in the idea of if you want your guy, go get him. And if this is what the Niners had him graded out as, then that absolutely works. Because like let's look like this, and this is a very like in a vacuum argument. A lot of people are raving about the New York Jets draft, and I don't disagree. I think they had a very solid draft, but I think a large reason of that is they had 3 first-round picks. So everybody's giving this draft an A for the Jets. But let's see what it looks like in 3 years. I don't have any doubt that the players they drafted are going to be good. I don't know. I don't have any reason not to believe it. But let's see where it is. I mean, I think the very famous example is you remember in 2012 when Bleacher Report gave the famous F draft to the Seattle Seahawks, where they drafted Bruce Irvin, Russell Wilson, and Bobby Wagner, which didn't turn out to be an F. So I don't really want to overreact where the Niners got him, because if they like Tyrion Davis-Price here, then that's why they got him here. He's a position of need. The Niners did need a running back, and obviously the Niners were very high on this guy to take him at the 93rd overall pick, especially with other positions of need, because we're 2 picks in, haven't addressed the offensive line, haven't addressed safety yet. We'll see what he looks like, obviously, but I'm going to feel good about a running back and a Kyle Shanahan offense.
Yeah, and he fits. So again, we'll find out how it looks later on. But if that's what they like, they honed in on. Right now, I'm not in love with it, but who cares what I think, right? As long as they get the production out of it and it looks good, then don't worry about little old me. Don't worry about us little fake draft experts. So
the Niners follow up with the 105th pick, and hey, Kyle Shanahan goes and gets himself another toy to play with. Danny Gray, wide receiver out of SMU. He can play outside and inside. He has big playability, good at catch or yards after the catch guy. He can run a little bit. The big concern, and stop me if you've heard this before, Jason Aponte, receiver Kyle Shanahan drafted, a little bit of a drop issue. So how do you feel about Danny Gray with the 105th overall pick?
Yeah, 4.33. I think I've got him pegged a little bit more for the slot to start right away. And he fits with Trey Lance, which is when you just mentioned earlier, we don't know who the starter is. This implies a shift in that way, where he can blaze down the field, and there's one person that in this quarterback room, maybe 2, Nate Sudfeld, that can actually throw that thing down the field. So it's going to be more of a shift towards Trey. That was one of the signs that I took, that they really are kind of shifting this offense towards him in that way. At the Senior Bowl, he had an amazing rep in one-on-ones. He caught a beautiful deep ball from Malik Willis that made everybody jump out of their seats. So I love the pick. He does have some special teams experience. I believe he has 8 kickoff returns. He has 4 fielded punts. So again, speed adding to this offense, just another guy that you would have to defend. And hopefully he slots in next to Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk this season, depending on what goes on with Deebo Samuel. But I love this pick. I think it's really good in the 3rd round. That 4.33 speed is something that you can't just find hanging out on trees. No. So it's a great value right there. SMU, competition doesn't really bother me as much. It's just when he's on the field, he's fast, he's hard to cover. So I like this pick a lot. And for me, it just signified more what they're trying to do in this offense to push it towards Trey Lance. And that was the thing that I kind of took away from it. Is okay, they really started to believe that this is going to, well, not that they didn't believe before. I'm talking about the people on outside perception who believe that somehow Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be starting this year. It's a shift towards Trey Lance, and that kind of puts that to bed a little bit more, in my opinion.
Yeah, there might be a pick later in this draft that I thought was maybe a sign of where the plan is at the quarterback position. We'll see. It's just a theory I'll throw out in a little bit here. This definitely feels like a little bit of a project pick. There was concerns with his route running, his hands. Obviously, he had a drop issue. But hey, Kyle Shanahan, I don't know if we've said this on the podcast before, Jason, a little bit of a offensive genius, kind of knows what to do with the receiver position. So we'll see, because he does have that big playability, a big speed guy. The Niners like those types of guys, whether it's Marquise Goodwin, Brandon Ayuk has some speed, Deebo obviously pretty quick as well. And Brugler says he has the skills to develop into a weapon as a team's wide receiver 3, and that's maybe the position they have him. My guess is as a wide receiver 4, because I don't know if he's going to be able to beat Jawan Jennings, but they're also two different types of receiver. Jawan Jennings, as I said, like it's not an apples to apples comparison, but he's the Kendrick Bourne type where he's going to go up and make those physical catches, or maybe you use Daniel Gray to stretch the field out a little bit, give Trey Lance a little more room to run, or deep passes, all that stuff. So I could see it also being a very situational thing where Jawan Jennings at its peak, obviously, because we don't know what Danny Gray is yet at the NFL level, but it could be a situational thing where we see Jawan Jennings getting certain, maybe the third and short situations, and Danny Gray getting the third and longs, and maybe, get him into space, let him try and make a play.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I just love the shift because he's more of a fit with Trey Lance at this point. But yeah, it's going to be, I think situationally those guys will be used, right? Like Jennings is more like Kendrick Bourne in the third down, red zone type and tough catches to get first downs. But Danny Gray adds an element to this offense that they've been missing largely since, I'm going to say a name and I don't want anybody to get upset, since like Marquise Goodwin, as far as stretching the field and opening things up for other people. So.
Yeah, so we'll see what he ends up being. We're already at round 4, Jason Aponte. Good time to remind everybody that you are not subscribed to Jason Aponte's YouTube channel. You should absolutely do that right now. It's amazing. It's great. He has this guy, Andrew Pasquini, comes on every so often, talk 49ers football. And if you're not subscribed to the Sprint Red Option podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever your podcasts, go do that now, because if you missed the live shows, you can catch every episode on that feed as well. Round number 4, we are now into day 3. Well, I believe the third round's day 2. I always get that mixed up. Day 3 of the draft, round 4, 134th overall. The 49ers finally address the need. They go offensive lineman Spencer Burford. That's a hard name to say. It looks very easy to pronounce, but it's very difficult. That RF. Burford, there you go, out of the University of Texas, San Antonio. He primarily played left tackle at UTSA in a multiple run scheme. He was the highest ranked recruit in school history out of San Antonio. It started 43 games between left guard, left tackle, and right tackle over 4 years. And that's what I like, is a little bit of versatility. I think the Niners need somebody like that. He does lack some deficiencies, especially in the run game. And then the last little sentence here, overall, Burford must continue to bolster his play strength and hone his technique, especially in the run game. But he's an agile, footed blocker with the body twitch. That's my favorite draft word, by the way, twitch. Twitchy, always good thing to hear. And play personality worth developing. So to me, I didn't know much about him. He was one of the names that I missed out on because I didn't see him mocked too often to the Niners. On the surface, though, I do think the Niners needed an offensive lineman that could move a little bit around, preferably somebody who could play more guard than tackle, because I do believe I'm in the camp of Mike McGlinchey will be fine. And you obviously have Trent Williams on the other side, but I think a little bit of versatility on that offensive line is a good thing.
And basically every single person in this offensive line room has versatility aside from Trent Williams. You're not going to move him around, but that's just the 49ers MO. Some of my notes on him: 6'4", 304 pounds, just a bit undersized for tackle. Versatile on the line, can play multiple spots aside from center. That's the only one that he can't. If he adds some strength, he can absolutely be a steal. I feel like he wins with instincts and technique less than he does strength and speed. And I think a fun little nugget is Jordan spoke with him at the Combine about Trent Williams, and he directly spoke about it would be a dream to play next to Trent Williams and how much of an influence he is. So that's a fun little nugget there as well, too. It's a move that we'll talk about the other linemen that's taken and my feelings on both of them, but it's a move for somebody who is going to come in, be able to play multiple positions, and who knows, if he becomes a project and he becomes a starter, they could be looking at him as a possible replacement for one of the guard positions, especially if Daniel Brunskill gets moved to center, because we have no idea what's going on with Alex Mack.
Yeah, no, and as I said, even before the draft, having a guy who can move around on different spots on the line, especially with how many question marks on the line there is right now, it's a good thing. I'm assuming the run blocking will develop a little bit because that's the Kyle Shanahan, the style he likes, right? Obviously, you have Mike McGlinchey, one of the better run blockers. You have Trent Williams, who is just an overall good blocker. I don't think I need to really specify that. But then you guys got guys like Aaron Banks, who is known more as a run blocker. You have Daniel Brunskill, who decent at both, leans more run blocking, also really good at stopping Aaron Donald. So that's where it is. I think the versatility on the line is a very good thing. And it's a good pick. The Niners finally addressed the offensive line a few rounds a little later than what people expected. But as I said, man, I'm not going to judge necessarily where they drafted these guys because nobody knows what the Niners draft board is except for the guys who made the picks.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, there's things that they probably see, the things that they feel like they can get out of him and unlock that potential. So again, it's really hard to get upset, especially when you look at the pick, what round, what day. It's not something that you need to analyze. It's not like they took this kid in the first round, and that's something that would be overanalyzed. So I think when you take into consideration the pick, everything else, what he does bring to the team, it can look very good soon. And I think they're betting on a lot of the things that they can get out of him, and the potential that they see in him.
Pick 172, the 49ers address the cornerback position. They go Samuel Womack out of Toledo. And the big thing I read kind of from him is he's a nickelback, and that's what the Niners needed to address after losing K'Wan Williams. He's overlooked due to his size, but his competitive nature, body control, and on-ball production belong in the NFL, ideally suited in the nickel. He has toughness for the run game, but his consistency can improve. So it almost feels like a K'Wan Williams type player, and I think that's a good thing because what the Niners asked K'Wan Williams to do out of the nickel is what it seems Samuel Womack can do. So what are your thoughts on Womack?
Yeah, he's an absolute K1 clone in terms of measurables. He's just faster. When you literally look at his three-cone speed, size, everything, he's literally the same guy. He just runs a 4.39 40. He can be a better tackler. That's my concern. And I think that the 49ers are really betting on his measurables. But if he cleans up the tackles, and I'm glad that he pointed out the consistency because he's good in run support, but he's gotta clean up the tackles. I think that's where he has a little bit of downside to his game. But it's clear that they looked at him as a K'Wan Williams replacement, as pretty much anybody could have seen.
Yeah, at 49ers amateur draft scout, he was, according to Brugler's rating, he was a priority free agent. The Niners get him in the 5th round. But as I said just previously, we don't know what the Niners draft board is. This is one person's opinion, another person has another opinion. It's just kind of how this works. And I think that's the beauty of the draft is nobody really knows anything until the draft happens. I mean, wasn't Malik Willis? I mean, obviously not to pick the most obvious example. Wasn't Malik Willis a first-round pick until he wasn't? The Eagles drafted a linebacker who was also supposed to be a first-round pick, and they didn't get him to the 4th round. I'm forgetting that name. So that's just kind of what the
Dean from Georgia.
Dean from Georgia. So it's kind of what the draft is. Yes, he's rated undrafted, but obviously the Niners had him there. And nickelback is a position they definitely needed. There's a little uncertainty of what it was, even with talks of maybe moving Emmanuel Mosley there if they sign somebody else. So, hey, I think where they're at the defensive back or the cornerback spot, especially with another name will come up, the Niners have depth and they have options. And as Jason said at the top of the show, this is probably the best defensive back room that Shanahan and Lynch era has had because of just the depth by itself. Is Travarius Ward coming in, you have Emmanuel Mosley. What do you do with the corner, the nickel slot? You can move certain people in, move certain people out, mix and match. A lot of depth there. So we're feeling overall pretty good about the secondary right now. But the Niners' next pick, 187th overall, offensive lineman Nick Zakelj. That's Zakelj, but it's pronounced Zakelj out of Fordham. A 5-year starter at the college. He was a mainstay at left tackle. He didn't have much offensive line experience before college, but he developed into one of the better blockers. He became the 24th player in Patriot League history to earn all conference honors in 4 different seasons. He grabbed the attention of NFL teams with the performances against Nebraska in the 2021 opener. He was up and down inconsistent. And the last little note is he's a college tackle who will move inside to guard in the NFL. And while we talked about what Burford can bring to the Niners for the versatility, I think also getting a guard straight up is very good for the Niners because if you do have to move Brunskill to center because of the Alex Mack situation, we don't know, having an extra guard, not a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, exact same notes. I mean, more versatility on the line. I think he profiles more of the tackle because of his height, 6'6", 316. He's going to have to put on a little bit more weight. I mean, do they look at him as an eventual Trent Williams replacement? That's going to be something that they have to think about. But the smaller schools thing is a concern. Shout out to New York, though, by the way, Fordham in the building. But he played very well against Nebraska, and I think that should show you that he holds his own against competition. Obviously, you heard that in the scouting report that was given. So this one feels a little bit more redundant with the Burford pick. But I see the vision. I see what they're talking about, and they're trying to beef up this room as best they can. I wouldn't drive too much stock into what they feel about or what you think they feel about Aaron Banks or Colt McKivitz or certain guys. I think they're just building inside the trenches, and that's what they do. And there's nothing wrong with having many bodies. It depends on who makes this team, what's going to happen with Alex Mack, how many of these guys make the team, how many of these guys are going to be on the 53. So we'll see. But yeah, I kind of see the vision here. It's just this one feels a little bit more redundant, especially with the Burford pick.
Yeah, and that's maybe a bit of concern, but we'll see what it ends up happening, what the Niners end up planning on doing with these. As we said, and it's worth repeating, we don't know what the plan is for these guys yet. We'll see what it ends up being ultimately, but we'll get more answers the closer we get to September, and that's kind of the exciting thing about it. Round 6, we are there, 222nd overall pick. Sorry, my note says 220th. Oh, that's right, 220. I'm not smart. 220th overall pick. Defensive lineman Kalia Davis out of UCF. 2-year starter. He was a 3 technique, lining up inside, outside, and over the guard. 235-pound linebacker as a senior in high school. Transitioned to D-line in 19. Overall, Davis's tape has more flash and consistency, but he fires out of his stance with twitch and range to create backfield disruption versus the run and as a pass rusher. Developmental 3 technique prospect. And the name I saw, I don't know if we'll get the exact same comparison, but the name I saw Niner fans compare him a lot to is DJ Jones, which, we're pretty familiar with that name a little bit. So, Jason, what are your thoughts on Davis out of UCF?
Yep, DJ Jones, like run stuffer, showed some promise as a pass rusher, though, with 5 sacks this past season. So I think that's a little bit more that you can add to his game. It's not something that's necessarily his strength. And I found something out. I believe if you go into the mirror and turn off the lights and you say torn ACL 3 times, then Trent Baalke appears and tries to draft you. So torn ACL the year before, and he opted out with COVID. And that's kind of where his stock is. But yeah, Kalia Davis, it's clear that this team likes their profiles for guys that they're replacing. So you have the K'Wan Williams replacement in Womack, and now it feels like a natural progression into DJ Jones with Kalia Davis from UCF. So yeah, it fits that way if he can continue to build on that pass rushing, which isn't as bad as necessarily people say. It's definitely not a strength of his game, but I wouldn't say it's an absolute knock. If he can be that DJ Jones like run stuffer, who was the number 1 run stuffer in the league last year, then I think it's a big win, especially when you're talking in the 6th round. This isn't the exactly most sexy pick, but it's the 6th round at this point. So what are you looking for? What are you looking to replace? And clearly the 49ers see value in having another guy behind Javon Kinlaw to fill that role, which DJ Jones did all of last year.
And it seemed to be a bit of a trend, replacing previous players with current players. We saw that especially in the 1st round with Treylon Burks going to the Titans, and NFL Network literally was like, yeah, his player comp is A.J. Brown. That's funny. But yeah, I think as it is with running back, I like to see what they see in these defensive linemen, because Chris Kosarek has a lot of opinion on who they take. And you don't know what Javon Kinlaw is going to be at this point, and having depth behind him is probably a good thing. So we'll see what Davis can bring in.
Breaking news. Jameis Winston just graduated from FSU.
My guy. Wow, what a moment. That's you said Jameis Winston. I got terrified that he had some setback in his ACL. Shout out to Jameis Winston graduating from Florida State. We love him. But defensive line, never a bad pick. And especially, as you said, Jason, 6th round, you just kind of pick guys and see what they are, right? This is where you start taking chances on guys you think have the high upside that not a lot of people see. So we'll see what Davis is. The Niners had the very next pick. They follow up the 220th pick with the 221st pick. A guy that I saw mocked to the Niners in 3rd, 4th, 5th round. They get him in the 6th round. Tariq Castro-Fields. I know Javi's big on it, out of Penn State. He played right corner at Penn State in the zone heavy. He created buzz among NFL scouts after his breakout 2019 season. He has an intriguing blend of size and speed, and he's an aggressive player and has the necessary toughness at the next round. He projects as a toolsy backup with the volatile talent to push for a starting job or fall off the depth chart if his consistency doesn't improve. It's a little brutal from Brugler there, but more secondary depth, and I think that's what the Niners needed and what they wanted.
Yeah, 4.38 40-yard speed. He plays just as fast. Good in run support, but he definitely needs to improve his tackling. That's something that I noticed. He probably feels better at a safety at this point than he does cornerback. So that's the interesting part. Is everyone's like, well, you didn't draft a safety. Did they? And I think that that's where he kind of fits at this point. Fast, but not as athletic with a change of direction are the only things that really concern me with that. But it's clear the 49ers have bet on a lot of measurables, athletics, and he's going to probably start out as a gunner on special teams. So, again, special teams becomes the priority. Let's find out where he lands and how that all works out for him. I see the vision. He has to work on some things if he's going to be a consistent player. But that 4.38 speed is something that you really can't find anywhere. But if he works on that change of direction, I see him better as a safety than I do as a corner at this point. But I could be off.
And just Spirit Right Option podcast rule, we mentioned the needed safety. It's always a good time to remind. Just go re-sign Jaquaski Tartt. Hey, that solves the position. We have to do that. But yeah, no. As we said, man, this is the Niners really address that secondary depth, and it's something that they've been bid on multiple times, especially in the 2021 season. Once Jason Verrett went down, they tried Diamador Lenore. It didn't work out as they felt. Ambry Thomas took some time to develop. He still had his struggles, especially in the NFC Championship game. So the Niners are giving themselves more opportunities to kind of it almost feels like a strategy of let's just take a few of them and see what we got, and we can really assess the position that way. And depth is never a bad thing, in my opinion. It's the NFL. You're going to need depth.
And there's one person that's in that room that's not going anywhere. Dante Johnson is not going anywhere, guys. I mean, they gave him $700,000 guaranteed. He's going to make this roster. So, depth is wealth. But, I guess this is a plan for later on down the line where the 49ers had a clear plan. They walked in, they want to bet on measurables, they want to bet on special teams, and they wanted to make sure they got 2 hyphenated last names. It's a brilliant plan if you really think about it that way, and that is big brain stuff, my people. That's the stuff that good front offices do, is they find and they identify hyphenated names and they draft those guys. You guys should be lucky.
Well, I got good news. There's a third hyphenated name in the undrafted free agents. So we got 3 of them now.
See?
And who knows, maybe we'll have a larger conversations about Dante Johnson later this offseason about maybe being that's every down safety. Who knows? Maybe we'll have that conversation one day, Jason Aponte. Round 7, the San Francisco 49ers had the second most exciting pick in the NFL draft. Everybody talks about the number 1 pick in the draft, but after that, it's just all boring names that nobody cares about until we get to Mr. Irrelevant, the 262nd overall pick. And the 49ers go quarterback, huh? Chris Berman voice. Brock Purdy, Iowa State, a 4-year starter at Iowa State. He operated out of the shotgun in a balanced scheme, finished his career as the all-time winningest quarterback in Iowa State history and owns 32 school records. He is sharp and athletic with productive resume, but is undersized with unremarkable physical tools, forcing him to be perfect with his accuracy and timing. He projects as a potential backup with a Colt McCoy-like ceiling. And Jason, allow me to read too deeply into the last pick of the draft. I don't know the last time the Niners carried 4 quarterbacks, which means one could be on its way out. And there's an argument to be had that Brock Purdy could be that guy since he's the last pick. Maybe you bring him into camp, see what he has. They gave Nate Sudfeld a lot of guaranteed money to be here, and Trey Lance, you put a lot of stock into him. That leaves one guy. I don't know. Maybe Shanahan wants to have 4 quarterbacks, but he's also the type of guy who has 2 active quarterbacks on game day, 1 not active. You would think there's one man left out, and that name is the name that you know who I'm talking about at this point. Maybe I'm reading too deeply into it, Jason. I don't know. We'll find out as time will tell. But what are your thoughts on Brock Purdy and maybe what you think about what it could mean for another quarterback in the room?
And just that one line that started it, absolute winner. You know how this team loves their winning quarterbacks, guys who win and win and win, and there's no measurable for winning, okay? Yeah, no, the last time the 49ers had 4 quarterbacks was 2020. It was Jimmy Garoppolo, Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, and Jerick McKinnon. So we're getting back to that now is where we're doing this. So this is all just big brain stuff trying to get back to things that worked in 2020. Yes. And obviously I'm making jokes about this because, look, I hate this Mr. Irrelevant thing. He was drafted. He's in the league at this point, but I don't care. I don't care, man. Like, it doesn't matter. I mean, who cares, basically? That's the one guy that I was like, I'm not writing any notes on him. I don't care. And if he is Colt McCoy, fine. That means he's going to be a fine backup. But Nate Sudfeld is going to be the backup this year. So, yeah, whatever, man.
Yeah, it just was really interesting. Yeah, Keith makes a point. 2 years ago, Garoppolo, Mullins, Beathard, and Johnson. Josh Johnson was practice squad, and the Niners ran with what's it called? Two quarterbacks on game day. So we'll see what it actually means. Obviously, time will tell. As I said on draft night, we won't find out about the Jimmy Garoppolo situation until June either way. It just was really interesting to look at the phone because obviously, it's the last pick in the draft and to see a quarterback drafted. I thought that was very, very interesting to see. So overall, Jason, what's your thought on this draft class before we get into the UDFAs?
I think that I started to like it more and more as it went on when you start to look at the fits and things like that. I mean, these names aren't going to necessarily blow anybody away, but that's what makes this so fun is finding these undrafted gems, which at the end, I mean, I think that was the most important part. And I think that's what we have to put into this as well, too. It's not just necessarily the draft picks, it's who they got as UDFAs. And that's going to be important when we look at this as well, too, because there's a few guys there that 49ers Twitter was all over, and here we are now. So good call, guys. I don't tell me they're not listening to you guys.
Yeah, so perfect. And actually, it worked out perfectly because I had about 8 names. Matt Mayoko, about 3 minutes before we went live, dropped the name of 14 undrafted free agents the 49ers have signed. I'm going to read them right now. So there's just 14 of them, so bear with me. Defensive lineman Kevin Atkins out of Fresno State. Linebacker Jeremiah Gemmel out of North Carolina. Safety Taylor Hawkins out of San Diego State. Defensive back Quantrez Knight out of UCLA. That's QWUANTREZZ. A bit of a scribble name there. I love it. It's a football guy name. That's just an ultimate name. Wide receiver Taser Mack out of Pittsburgh. Wide receiver Tay Martin out of Oklahoma State. Running back Jordan Mason out of Georgia Tech. Linebacker Marcelino McCray Ball. There's your hyphenated name, Jason, out of Indiana. Linebacker Segun Alubi out of San Diego State, safety Leon O'Neal Jr. out of Texas A&M, offensive lineman Jason Poe out of Mercer, offensive lineman Sam Schuliter, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. Didn't get a pronunciation guide on these names, so I apologize if I butchered that. Out of Minnesota, tight end Garrett Walston out of North Carolina, and offensive lineman Donovan West out of Arizona State. Jason, give me a few names out of there that excite you. I know of at least 2 that you'll mention.
Yeah, I got 3 actually. Jason Poe actually profiles as somebody who could be an Alex Mack replacement immediately if that's the case. He's very fast. He's a fast mover. I like that pickup very much. But who knows? Daniel Brunskill could be moved over to center. That seems like the sensible option at this point. But Jason Poe is somebody who could step in. Donovan West is somebody who could be the long-term Mac replacement down the line. And I want to point out something that kind of makes him a lock for the 53. When you look at the guaranteed money of $10,000 as signing, $100,000 guaranteed, that pretty much makes him a lock for the 53. So it's less about, well, they drafted this guy, is he going to make the team? Some of these draft picks aren't going to make the team. I feel like Donovan West is definitely going to make this team, especially when you look at the structure of that contract. And obviously everybody's favorite, Leon O'Neal. I just feel like his 40 time killed him. There's a little bit of concern on tape being out of position and missing tackles as well, too. The speed is a concern. But when you listen to Leon talk, he's a very infectious young man. And I know that doesn't matter about football. But I think what I really walked away with was about how he talked about there were so many guys that were taken ahead of him that would have never, that he feels were not in the ballpark of him in terms of talent. The kid's going to work his ass off. So we'll see what happens with Leon. I know those were 2 guys, Leon O'Neal and Donovan West, that a lot of people like. But I really like those 3 as well. 2 of those 3 have a real shot at making this roster. Leon O'Neal has a little bit of an uphill battle, but I think that his attitude is going to put him firmly in the race, and we're going to find out how it goes in training camp.
Yeah, the 2 names I wanted to talk about, Donovan West, you mentioned him. He was a guy that I saw people, because the way I did my draft research, just a little behind the scenes of how I did it, is I just went through dozens of mock drafts, and he was a name I had written down as one I saw quite a bit, 4th, 5th round guy. So for the Niners to get him as an undrafted free agent, and obviously the money they gave him, that tells you what they think about him. Jason, I think you're absolutely right that he's a lock for the 53-man roster. And I've seen a lot of good things said about him. Leon O'Neal, another name people really liked. Concerns at the safety position, but what I saw, what I believe, people like him as a special teams guy. And once again, this has been Oren Burks, George Odom, guys like that. The Niners have really addressed their special teams, and maybe that's what Leon O'Neal is. And then I spelled his name for you. That's how you know I'm intrigued. Quantrez Knight, just a football name. I don't know much about him. I'm just going to read a paragraph I just Googled about him. He might be the 49ers' most intriguing rookie free agent. One NFL evaluator texted that Knight stood out among the 49ers signing, writing that the 49ers just need to find a position for him and predicting that he will be lights out on coverage teams. I'm cheering for Quantrez Knight just for the name value alone. I'm a big name guy. One of the things I wanted to do was a mock draft of just best names the Niners could draft at that spot. I never got around to doing it. So Quantrez Knight, just A+ name. So great pickup in my mind.
Names matter. Cole Strange and the multiverse of blocking. I had them all on deck. I can't believe at 29 he was taken. Thanks a lot, Bill. I mean, Bill the general manager is nowhere near Bill the coach. But hey, whatever. What the hell do I know? But yeah, the name value is important, guys. When you're doing evaluation, you got to start adding that into your process.
Cole Strange led to my favorite draft moment with the video of McVay and Snead, little Liddy at their press conference, and it made me think. I think that's the number one reason I want the Niners to win a Super Bowl now. Could you imagine a kind of Liddy, John Lynch, and Kyle Shanahan doing a draft press conference because they're Super Bowl champions and who cares about the draft at this point? We need it.
And they don't have any picks.
We need it. We need it. I absolutely need that. So Niners, I know you're watching John Lynch. I know you're watching Kyle Shanahan. Try to win a Super Bowl and do that draft press conference a little bit Liddy. Is that too much to ask?
A little bit Liddy. And unfortunately, the place I just came from, there's nothing a little bit Liddy about Las Vegas. Yeah, I mean, I need to, I'm at a little bit Liddy now because I'm trying to come down from the Liddiness, especially after my flight was canceled and I had to fly into godforsaken Boston and touch grass down there.
We don't like the Red Sox. The Red Sox aren't the hottest team in baseball. You know who is?
The New York Yankees. Best team in baseball, baby.
Look at our Yankees, Jason Aponte. I don't want to talk about the Giants. They just got embarrassed by the Washington.
Your team doesn't have the best record in baseball? Man, I can't relate.
I can't relate. I can't. 2 out of 3 against the Nationals. That's not ideal, but 2-game series against the Dodgers, we can fix it. Jason Aponte, do you have any last second thoughts about the NFL draft? Or before?
No. My God, what an experience, man. Got a chance to speak with a lot of the first rounders in the media room, got a chance to meet a bunch of, reputable writers and things like that. And just an experience I'll never forget. And I'm joking about Las Vegas. It was a blast. It would be really cool if they had it there every year. I would just plan to get in on the day of the draft and literally leave on day 3 because I was there too long. Like, it's just time stands still. For some reason, it's always like midnight, and it never gets it's like the clock is stuck in all of these places, and you just don't ever sleep. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. But more about learning from professionals on how to cover the draft, making those connections, networking, speaking with players, speaking with coaches. Had a chance to talk with Malik, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, Jermaine Johnson, Breece Hall in his press conference, Joel Klatt from NFL Network, Charles Davis. It's an experience I'll never forget. I'll never take it for granted, and super humbling experience for little old me.
I saw you ran into Scott Hansen as well. That was pretty
cool. Electric move, man. Oh my goodness. So I want to say this before we go. That move with Scott Hansen, that was not planned. That was literally, I'm like, hey, can I grab a video? I clicked the video button and I said 7 hours. And I just put it to him and he went right into the line, man. Shout out to Scott Hansen, amazing guy. The most electric moment of the draft for me, in my opinion. And that's something I'll always remember.
I popped at that video. I got way too excited about a 7-second Instagram story. And I was like, damn, I've never, like, Jason Aponte, tall, handsome, beautiful, whatever you want to use. I've never been more jealous of him than in that 7 seconds.
He was so nice, man.
I'm very excited for you. I'm glad you had a good time. We will be back on Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
And you can make the announcement. You can make the announcement out here.
Oh, I was gonna just tease it until Thursday.
I think it would be cool to let people know what's going on, because we're not going to be giving you the typical what's going on with Deebo, what's going on with, like, we actually have a very great episode lined up, and I'll let Andrew talk about it a little bit more because we actually have it confirmed.
Yeah, so we have Dr. Narav Pandaya. I apologize if I'm butchering that. If I am, we're going to get his pronunciation correct on Thursday. I promise we're going to get that done. We're going to have him on. You probably have seen him on Twitter. He's an orthopedic surgery. He's I apologize. He's the associate professor of the UCSF orthopedic surgery department. We're going to have him on to talk mainly Mike McGlinchey. There's going to be other questions we're going to have with him. Thank you, Priya. You could absolutely, if you could help us out with that on the pronunciation, please. I do not want to butcher it once again. I'm very paranoid about making sure to pronounce names correct. So please help me out with that. We're going to have him on definitely to talk about Mike McGlinchey for sure. And just overall injury things with the 49ers because I think it'll be a very interesting conversation. I'm really excited for it. It's something vastly different than anything we've ever done on this podcast. We've never had any type of doctor. He's easily going to be the smartest person we've had on this podcast. I'm very excited for it. So it'll be a fun one.
All right, JK, as usual, man. And yeah, absolutely, guys. Make sure you like this video on the way out. We're almost done. Subscribe to the channel. Join the Spicy Squad. A lot of stuff coming this week. I have one more announcement that nobody knows, but I'll drop the news here. Better make sure that you guys are up early on the West Coast. I'll be on 95.7 The Game talking about the NFL Draft at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Time, 9:30 Eastern Time. Tap in so you can hear me talk on the Morning Roast with Bonsa and Shasky, man. I can't wait and have a lot of things to talk about on there. So yeah, shout out to those guys. They're legends out there. So yeah, your boy will be on the radio tomorrow. So just make sure that you guys are up in time so you can hear what I have to say about the draft.
Make sure you're awake, you guys. Jason Aponte in the morning is better than coffee. Let's be 1,000% honest. It'll be fun. I'm very excited to hear his thoughts. Any insight of what you're going to talk about? Or are you gonna leave?
Oh no, I'm gonna bury the lead. They'll start with the NFL draft, and then I'll start moving into why is Jimmy Garoppolo on this team and completely change. No, I'm not gonna do anything like that. It's gonna be NFL draft thoughts. Today was really tough for them to get me on because the Warriors. So I got bumped by the Warriors. Thanks a lot, Fake Sport. So it'll be tomorrow, and that's when you guys will catch me at the time that I'll let you guys know.
Beautiful. Well, make sure you go listen to that. Jason Aponte, hardest working man on 49ers Twitter. That's really all I have today, unless we wanted to talk about the New York Yankees, but I don't know if people enjoy it when we talk about that. That'll be a talk between Jason and I off the air. So Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go Niners. Thanks everybody for tapping in.
Re-sign Jaquaski Tart.
Do it.
Do it.
Welcome everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.